Today, we're going to unpack a wild story about a massive engineering team that was, and I mean this quite literally, flying blind. It all started with what looked like a tiny, simple mistake in their software tools, but what it uncovered was a crisis that went right to the heart of how they worked. Let's get into it.
You know, this quote from Marie Curie, it just perfectly captures this story. It's all about a team moving from the fear of not knowing if they were even making progress, to finally getting the clarity and understanding they so desperately needed.
So let's start right here. Just think about that for a second. What happens when you have a huge team, 150 people, all working their tails off, but with no real way of knowing if they're moving forward? It's a recipe for chaos, for frustration. And for one company, this wasn't a hypothetical. This was their reality.
Okay, so let me introduce you to Company X. They're a big player, a global ERP software company with a 150-person engineering team, and they had a massive problem. Critical metrics? Gone. They couldn't look back and see how this sprint compared to the last one. Their progress was, for all intents and purposes, completely invisible.
So naturally they started digging. And the first, most obvious suspect was their project management software. But as they pulled on that thread, they started to realize, maybe the problem wasn't the tool itself.
At first, the answer seemed almost too simple. The investigation pointed to one critical error in how they were using Jira, their main tool. A core feature was just being used completely wrong, and it was breaking their ability to see, well, anything.
Okay, this right here, this is the technical heart of the mistake. In Jira, a version is meant for tracking a big public release. Like shipping version 2.0 of your software. It can last for months. A sprint, on the other hand, is that short, 2-week burst of focused work where a team builds one small, finished piece of the product. Company X was using the giant release container to measure their short, daily work. It's kind of like trying to measure your daily jog in marathons instead of miles. It just doesn't work.
And you can probably guess the result of that, right? By treating a marathon like a daily jog, they were fundamentally breaking the logic of the very system that was supposed to be helping them.
And oh boy, did the dominoes fall. Because of that one single mistake, their Scrum boards became useless. The tool couldn't generate crucial metrics like velocity or burn-down charts. Nothing worked. It got so bad they had to manually create a new dashboard for every single sprint for every single team. Can you imagine the overhead? It was a total nightmare.
But here's the thing. Just fixing the tool would be like mopping the floor without turning off the overflowing faucet. The investigation quickly revealed that the Jira issue, well, that was just a symptom of a much, much deeper problem.
The consultants who came in used this perfect analogy. It's not enough to clean up a broken glass on the floor. You have to ask the bigger question. Why was the glass on the floor in the first place? In this case, why was a 150-person engineering team using its most important tool completely wrong?
And the answer was, honestly, staggering. The team had a fundamentally backward understanding of the Agile Manifesto, the guiding document for their entire way of working.
This is it. This is the crucial point. The very first value in the Agile Manifesto is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Company X had it completely flipped. They were so obsessed with the tool and their broken process that they completely forgot about the people and the principles the tool was supposed to serve in the first place.
And this misunderstanding, it bled into other core concepts too, like the whole idea of a shippable increment. The entire point of a sprint is to create a small, finished, and potentially releasable piece of the product. That just wasn't happening.
And why not? Well, because they had a separate testing phase that happened after the sprint was over. In real Scrum, all the testing is part of the sprint itself. When a team says a feature is done, it should be done. This was another core principle they had just completely missed.
This quote from the consultant's report just says it all, doesn't it? You can't just take a broken process and throw more people at it. Scaling a broken system doesn't work. It just creates a bigger, more expensive, and more chaotic broken system.
So how do you fix a problem this deep? It's not a software patch, that's for sure. You need a complete cultural and educational overhaul. You need a blueprint for change.
The plan they came up with was this brilliant 4-step process. First, they'd identify a few pilot teams to test out the new model. Second, address the root cause, retrain those teams on the principles, and then reconfigure their tools the right way. Third, create. Use the success of those pilot teams to build a reference model for everyone else.
And finally, replicate. Use a special executive action team to scale that proven model across all 150 engineers. It's a classic strategy. Start small, prove it works, and then scale it up the smart way.
And that's really the key here, isn't it? The solution wasn't about fiddling with Jira settings. It was about reteaching the why behind Agile. It was a strategic overhaul of their culture, their understanding, and their entire practice.
So what's the big takeaway from Company X's story? Well, it's a really powerful lesson that goes far beyond any single piece of software.
Think about it. It took just one fundamental misunderstanding of one core Agile principle to send a 150-person team into total chaos, to the point where they couldn't even measure their own work.
And that is the ultimate lesson for all of us here. The tools we use, whether it's Jira or Slack or just a simple whiteboard, are only as effective as our understanding of the principles they're supposed to serve. Without the why, the how is basically meaningless.
Which really leaves us with a critical question we should probably ask ourselves. Is your team actually using its tools to serve its principles, or is your process being dictated by the limitations of a tool you might not fully understand? In other words, are the tools using you?